Right, so hello and welcome back to Books and Things, and welcome to another video, and welcome to a festive reading vlog. This video is very kindly sponsored by Serious Readers, who I'll tell you a bit more about later on in the video. So I wanted to do a sort of Christmassy festive reading vlog because I thought that might be fun, and then I realised that there is actually a bit of a theme to all the Christmas reading I'm hoping to do over the next week or two, in that I have a lot of Christmas short stories and short story collections and some Christmas novellas. So all of the sort of Christmas reading I want to do is sort of shorter works, which I thought might be quite a good thing to do in a reading vlog, because then I might have time to talk about, you know, individual short stories I like. Also, a lot of my Christmassy festive reading is of classics, which is quite fun, hopefully too. It's the 3rd of December when I'm starting this vlog, and I thought it would be nice to do some sort of festive reading over the next week or two to make me feel a bit more Christmassy. So I will start off with the physical books that I have. So quite a few different things here. Let's start off with the one thing that isn't a classic, and that is this. This is The Winter Spirits, Ghostly Tales for Frosty Nights. So this is a contemporary anthology, came out a year or two ago, and a lot of different writers, mostly of historical fiction, have written various sort of Christmas ghost stories, wintry ghost stories for this collection. This is kind of the follow-up to The Haunting Season, which had a very similar premise, and I think it's a really, really fun premise, and also, you know, sort of historically, ghost stories were very associated with Christmas, so I really like the idea of sort of ghostly Christmas stories. This is my Patreon historical fiction book club this month, and I know some people have already started reading the stories. I've seen like some messages pop up in Discord, so I want to get started with this today and read the first story. And then I have various other classic short story collections. So here we have A Book for Christmas by Selma Lagerlöf, which is a Swedish classic, a collection of short stories from, I think, the late 19th, early 20th century. Selma Lagerlöf won the Nobel Prize in 1909, so that's the kind of era she was writing in. And this is a collection of Christmas short stories translated from the Swedish by Sarah Death, what a name, Peter Graves, also what a name, and what a combination of names, anyway, and Linda Skenk. So yeah, I'm looking forward to reading these. I think this should be good fun. Penguin Classics very kindly sent me a review copy of this. This is very newly out and it's very, very beautiful, so really looking forward to reading this. Talking of beautiful books, actually, all of these festive books are very pretty. So here we have The Open Door and Other Stories of the Seen and Unseen by Margaret Oliphant. So this is a collection of Margaret Oliphant's ghost stories. I don't know whether or not these are going to be festive and wintry, but as the Victorians often associated ghost stories and Christmas together, and Margaret Oliphant is a Victorian writer, I think it's possible. And I also like the idea of reading Victorian ghost stories around Christmas, even if the stories themselves aren't festive. So I'm looking forward to this, and it's such a beautiful edition. And then I also have here The Two Heroines of Plumpington and Other Stories by Anthony Trollope. And this is a lovely, beautiful old Folio Society edition from the 80s with various Anthony Trollope stories in, one of which is Christmas at Thompson Hall, which I have read before, but I'll probably reread because I enjoy it. And I don't think the other stories in here will necessarily be Christmassy, but I think they should be good fun, and I've been meaning to read this for a little while. So those are the physical books I'm hoping to get to in the next week or two. And then I also have a couple of novellas on audiobook. So I really want to read The Christmas Hirelings by Mary Elizabeth Braddon, which is, I think, sort of 3 or 4 hours long on audiobook, and is meant to be a really fun Christmas story. I know Kate Howe read it a couple of years ago and really enjoyed it, so I'm looking forward to that. And then I will probably also read some Dickens Christmas novellas. I need to start The Cricket on the Hearth next, so that'll definitely be included in this reading vlog. And then depending on how long it takes me to get through the physical books, I may also talk about The Battle of Life, which is the next novella in the Christmas Dickens read-along. So yes, lots of exciting Christmas reading coming up, and I'll probably like mix up the short stories a little bit, and maybe I'll sort of read some classic short stories in between the stories in the Winter Spirits. So yes, really looking forward to this, and I will let you know how I get on. So hello again. I've now started both The Winter Spirits and A Book for Christmas. I probably won't keep you updated with like every story or two that I read, but I thought I would just tell you how I'm getting on with these so far. So I read the first two stories in The Winter Spirits, which were by Kieran Millwood Hargrave and Laura Shepherd Robinson, both of whom I really like as authors. I've read some of their novels too, and I really enjoyed their stories. The first one was sort of a Victorian spiritualist, spooky, sinister story, and the second one was sort of more traditionally kind of gothic ghost story with almost like a vampiric feel. You know, a man arrives in this house in the middle of nowhere and strange things are going on, but I really enjoyed them both. I thought they were very effective. I'm looking forward to carrying on with that. And then I also read the first story in A Book for Christmas. I'm not really sure whether the first story in this collection is a proper like short story or a genuine like non-fiction memory thing. It is framed as a memory, and it's about kind of this little girl, possibly the author, being like 9 or 10 years old and really wanting to get a book for Christmas and not knowing what to do with herself if she doesn't get a book. And it's just very sweet and fun. So I really enjoyed that. It looks like the next one is a kind of fairy tale story. So I'm looking forward to reading that. And then before I crack on with my reading, I thought I would just tell you a little bit about Serious Readers, who are very kindly sponsoring this video. So Serious Readers are a great company who make amazing reading lights like this one. I realise mine is making the light brighter off screen and you couldn't see it. So this here is my high definition light. I've had it for 2 years now and I use it all the time. It's very sort of flexible. You can move it around a lot. It also is dimmable, which I really like. The light beam from the high definition light is kind of very direct. So you can focus it directly on a page or anywhere you like, which is really great when reading. Serious Lights use something called daylight wavelength technology, which basically like replicates the daylight spectrum as close as is technically possible. So it's much more like reading in natural light than other lamps are. And it is genuinely a really good light that I use all the time. I do currently have an offer code active with Serious Readers. So if you use the offer code KT24 or in capital letters at checkout, then you can get £100 off a high definition light. I'll leave all the information about Serious Readers down below. And yeah, in the meantime, I will carry on with my reading. Hello again. So I've just finished reading A Book for Christmas by Selma Lagerlof, which I really enjoyed. This is a nice, fun collection of various different sort of festive Christmassy stories, all of which I really enjoyed. Some more than others, as often happens with collections. I think my favourites were probably A Book for Christmas, the first one, and The Rat Trap I quite liked. The Skull was very interesting. The Skull was quite dark, which was interesting because I feel like most of the stories were quite like festive and heartwarming, but The Skull was quite dark. Some of the stories are sort of more fairy tales, some of them are a bit more religious, but overall I thought this was a really interesting collection and nice and festive. Not like stand out necessarily, but I really enjoyed it, and it's such a beautiful edition as well. It's a lovely thing to have. And then I also listened to The Cricket on the Hearth by Charles Dickens, which was Charles Dickens' third Christmas novella. So I really enjoyed listening to that, although slightly less, I think, than I have enjoyed The Cricket on the Hearth previously. Like previously, I would have said The Cricket on the Hearth ranked quite highly amongst Charles Dickens' Christmas novellas, but I actually think on this reread it may turn out to be my least favourite of the 5. I think there's sort of less in it to get out on a reread, whereas like The Chimes is quite confusing, but I feel like the more you read it and the more you understand what Dickens is trying to do, the more interesting it becomes, whereas The Cricket on the Hearth, I feel like I kind of got what I was going to get out of it the first time I read it, and now, I don't know, the third, fourth time I've read it, it's less exciting, but I did still find it an enjoyable listen. And then I am also listening to another Christmas novella, which I started after The Cricket on the Hearth. I'm listening to The Christmas Hirelings by Mary Elizabeth Braddon, which I am loving. It is so good. I'm just about 3/4 of the way through, so I should finish that tomorrow, hopefully. I haven't got very much left, but I'm loving that very much. So I should explain the premise of both of those two novellas. So The Cricket on the Hearth is about a married couple who've been married for about a year, and the husband is quite a bit older than his wife, and he's sort of very self-conscious of that. And basically the story of The Cricket on the Hearth is about him sort of starting to doubt that his wife loves him, and about kind of the fallout of that. It is mostly realist, but there is like a little small magical element, which Dickens does like to put into his Christmas stories. Then The Christmas Hirelings by Mary Elizabeth Braddon is about a grumpy older baronet who doesn't have much family around him. One of his daughters passed away, another of his daughters is estranged from him, and he is spending Christmas with a friend and his niece, when the friend says, Christmas just isn't Christmas properly without children, so I'm going to go and hire some children from a friend of mine. We're going to pay the family to be parted from their children at Christmas, and we'll bring 3 children here in order to give us all a festive time, which is quite a weird premise, but like it really works in the story, and the 3 children are sort of so fun, especially Moppet. She is really well drawn, and a really fun character, and so yeah, these 3 little children, sort of 4, 5 and 6 years old or thereabouts, sort of come into this big grand house, and sort of melt the ice of the baronet's heart, and it's just lovely. So I'm really enjoying that so far. I should finish that very soon. So that's all for me for now, and I'll check in again soon. Hello, I just wanted to check in again and say that I'm now about halfway through the Winter Spirits, really enjoying it. Need to dedicate a bit more time to it, but work is quite busy at the moment, so you know, I do want to try and read a few more stories from this today. I'm really loving it so far. I read a few more stories since the last time I checked in, and I think my favourite so far has been The Salt Miracles by Natasha Pulley, which is no surprise because I know I love Natasha Pulley. She's one of my absolute favourite authors, if not my favourite author, who, you know, didn't die a long time ago in the 19th century. And yeah, The Salt Miracles was just fantastic. It just like pulled off so many things in such a short story, and was really like layered and subtle and amazing. So that was great. But I've been really enjoying the story collection as a whole so far. And then I also finished listening to The Christmas Hirelings by Mary Elizabeth Braddon, which I really loved. Such a delightful, fun story, but also with its serious moments. I just thought it was done so well. But it's just lovely, and just Moppet, like the little 4-year-old girl who's at the heart of the story, I just loved so much. So that was great. And yeah, I think that's all from me for now. I'm also going to start listening to The Battle of Life by Charles Dickens, which I'm looking forward to rereading, and hopefully the next time I'll check in I will have actually finished The Winter Spirits, but we will see. Hello again. So no, I have not yet finished reading The Winter Spirits, but I only have a couple of stories left now. I think I've got 3 left, but I wanted to film a quick clip now because I really loved the story that I just read from The Winter Spirits, which was Ada Lark by Jess Kidd, which I thought was fantastic, one of my favourites so far. I think my favourite so far is still The Salt Miracles by Natasha Pulley, but Ada Lark by Jess Kidd was great as well. It's this really well done ghost story about this 8-year-old girl who works for a medium in her sort of fraud illusion table. So Ada sits in the table, sort of in this wooden box, pressing buttons and operating the controls. So she is kind of helping this medium con people. And then this medium ends up taking her in a suitcase to this house where she's meant to be doing a spirit reading. But maybe in this house there is an actual ghost, and things kind of go on from there. And I just thought it worked really, really well. I really need to read one of Jess Kidd's novels because I loved this story, Ada Lark, and I also remember that when I read The Haunting Season, which is a similar short story anthology by the same publishers that came out previously, I really loved her story in that as well. I have enjoyed other stories in here a lot as well, but I think, yeah, so far The Salt Miracles by Natasha Pulley and Ada Lark by Jess Kidd are probably my favourites. I did really like Inferno by Laura Shepherd Robinson as well, and actually the Imogen Hermes Gower story was great as well. A double thread, a story about this really horrible woman and her relationship with her lady's maid slash seamstress, and it was just very effective. A really dislikable narrator in a way that really worked. So yeah, I've got 3 stories left in here, really enjoying this so far. And then I did also start reading The Open Door and Other Stories by Margaret Oliphant. Yes, I did start reading this before I'd finished The Winter Spirits, but there we go. I've read 2 stories in this so far, and I'm really, really enjoying it. So the first story that I read yesterday, The Secret Chamber, is about this kind of old aristocratic family who have this mysterious secret chamber in their house. And I really liked that one. I really liked the way the kind of secret chamber and the sort of supernatural element in the story was used as a kind of metaphor for like family secrets and the darkness in the past of a lot of these very wealthy families. I thought that was quite interesting. The ending was a bit ambiguous. I kind of feel like I would have liked a different ending, but I did still really like it. And then Earthbound, the second story, was great. That one's set at Christmas as well, which I enjoyed. I thought some of the stories would be festive in here because the Victorians did love to put ghost stories at Christmas. We're following this family who are in mourning. They're grieving for the loss of one of their sons, but everyone is trying to kind of put on a brave face. So they invite a few close friends or family members for Christmas, and one of the young men they invite, Edmund, starts to see this somewhat mysterious young lady walking around the grounds sometimes. And I just thought it was a really good, slightly different ghost story that was just very effective. And I just really loved the way it was written. So I'm looking forward to reading on with this collection. I think I'm probably not going to end up reading the Trollope short stories within this vlog because I feel like I'm just reading all of these things really slowly. And also when it's short stories, I feel like I have quite a lot to talk about. And then actually the other thing I finished yesterday was The Battle of Life by Charles Dickens, which I was listening to on audiobook, which I really enjoyed. There'll be a full individual video on that, so I won't talk too much about it, but I really like The Battle of Life. I think it's a strong, quite different Christmas novella. It's set over 9 years, which is very like ambitious for a novella, but we kind of follow these different characters at different points in their lives, and I really like the minor characters in The Battle of Life. Like the central story of this man and his daughters and kind of their relationships, I think is effective, but what I love in The Battle of Life is the minor characters, especially Clemency, who is a servant to the kind of main family, and also this pair of lawyers, Snitchy and Craggs, who are just a joy to read about. So really enjoyed The Battle of Life, and I've also started listening already to The Haunted Man and The Ghost Bargain, the final Christmas Dickens novella. So that is all for now. I will carry on with some more reading and I will check in again soon. Hello again. So I finally finished reading The Winter Spirits, which was really, really good overall. There were some stories I liked more than others, as always happens, but in general I enjoyed most of the stories. I think my favourite ones were, Natasha Pulley's The Salt Miracles and Ada Lark by Jess Kidd. I also really enjoyed A Double Thread by Imogen Hermes Gower, and of the last three that I've read since the last time I filmed a clip, Jenkin by Catriona Ward was really good and quite different as well. But in general, it's a very strong collection. Like, there's a lot of quite different stories and a lot of mixes of tones and kind of stories, and we jump around a bit in historical time period as well, which is really interesting. And yeah, overall, I just really enjoyed this. Really festive and spooky. Some stories which are more like gentle ghost stories and some which are like full horror, but I thought it worked really, really well overall. So very glad that I finally finished that. And then I also finished off listening to The Haunted Man by Charles Dickens, which is the final Dickens Christmas novella for the Christmas Dickens read along. I'm slightly ahead of the schedule, but I thought I would finish off today while I was doing some Christmas baking, and it's so good. I love The Haunted Man and The Ghost Bargain. Like, it's interesting, I think out of the 5 Christmas novellas, A Christmas Carol is definitely my favourite, and I remembered that The Haunted Man had been my second favourite the last time I read it, but I don't think I remembered like how much stronger The Haunted Man is than The Chimes, The Cricket on the Hearth and The Battle of Life, all of which I do like, but I just feel like The Haunted Man is the best by such a long way, with the exception of A Christmas Carol. The Haunted Man is this really powerful story of this man who is haunted by a kind of ghost of himself, and this ghost, this phantom, makes a bargain with him and says, do you want to forget all the sorrow and misery in your life? You can do so, I will let you. And so this man accepts the bargain and he forgets all the sorrow and misery of his life. And then the question is, what happens next, and how does that change who he is as a person? How does that change him? And the message and the structure of it, and the impact of some of the scenes in The Haunted Man, I just think it's fantastic. It's so emotional and so good, so I love it very, very much. That was very exciting. And then yes, I have yet to finish The Open Door. I'm still reading this. I'm still really, really enjoying it, but I think having finally finished The Winter Spirits and listened to a lot more audiobooks than I was intending to in this vlog, I think I'm probably going to wrap it up here. So yes, I haven't got through as many of the physical books as I was intending to, but I got through more audiobooks. I think that's just the time of year it is. Work has been quite busy and that makes it hard to sort of sit down and spend a long time reading, but audiobooks I always find easier to slip in because I listen to audiobooks while I'm exercising or cooking or baking or whatever. I am really enjoying The Open Door and I'm really looking forward to finishing this off, and I'm also looking forward to the Anthony Trollope short stories that I haven't got to yet, but I think I will read them after I have finished this vlog, and then I won't feel so pressured to finish them quickly. So there we go. Okay, that is all for now. Do let me know down in the comments, have you read any of these books? What did you think of them? Have you been doing any festive or wintry or seasonal reading at all? Otherwise, thanks very much again to Serious Readers for sponsoring this video. Thanks very much for watching, and I'll be back very soon with another bookish video.